how does one actually go about never getting angry? Well, I think the answer is right here in this passage from Epictetus. But first, let's talk about where we're reading this from. This is from a book called Enchiridion, which is one of the few books written by Epicurus. This was written probably in the year 130, just a couple decades before the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And in this short book, Epicurus lays out his philosophy, his view of the world, how one ought to live, the nature of good and evil, of justice and injustice. And also, he talks about anger. In fact, he says here, the object of our study, meaning the goal of philosophy, is to enable us to attain a state of freedom from passions, that is, apatheia. Now, apatheia doesn't mean a lack of passion, but rather, it means a freedom from negative emotions, things like anger, fear, anxiety, sadness, grief, frustration, etc. So the goal of the Stoics was not to become a person who never experiences emotion, but rather to become someone who's free from the destructive emotions. So the question is it possible for us to be free from anger? Is it possible for us to never get angry? Well, Epicurus says it is entirely possible. He says that it's actually quite easy. If you interpret things correctly, if you understand what is up to us and what isn't up to us, then you will not get angry. Why is that? Because anger, as we talked about in previous episodes, is a judgment call. It's something that we choose. It's a product of our own interpretations. In fact, he says here, we should make no mistake about it. We feel anger at things that happen within us, at the way we choose to view things. So, the key, according to Epicurus, is to guard our interpretations, guard our thoughts, because anger is a choice. And if we choose to interpret the things that happen to us correctly, if we understand the dichotomy of control, if we can see what is up to us and what is not up to us, then we will not get angry. Okay? So that's all well and good. But how do we actually put this into practice? How do we make sure that we never get angry? Well, the good news is that there are a lot of things that we can do, little tricks and techniques that we can use in order to prevent ourselves from getting angry. The bad news is that none of them are easy. The good news is that they're simple, but they're not easy. In fact, he says, when you want to get angry, when you're feeling anger rising within you, if you can just do these two things, if you can just accept things as they are, and instead of judging them, instead of judging other people and judging their behavior, if you can just accept things as they are and be grateful for things as they are, then you won't get angry. He says, but this is hard to do. So why is it hard to do? Well, we saw earlier that anger is a choice. And so, if we choose to get angry, if we choose to judge things incorrectly, that's our fault. That's not the world's fault. That's not other people's fault. It's ours. We're the ones who choose anger. But the problem is that we don't want to choose anger. We know anger is destructive. We know that it leads to all sorts of problematic behaviors. We know that it damages our relationships, that it hurts us more than anyone else. And so we don't want to get angry, but we still get angry. Why is that? Well, it's because we have these habits. We have these patterns of thinking and behaving that we've been practicing for years, for decades. And so we have to break those habits and replace them with new ones. In fact, he says that it's impossible to do this unless we practice. It's impossible for us to never get angry unless we practice not getting angry. He says, You know, some people say they never get angry. Well, that might be true, but I bet they don't get angry because they don't get upset. They don't get excited. They don't really engage with life. They're sort of dead inside. And I don't want that kind of freedom from anger. I want to be able to feel everything that I'm capable of feeling and still not get angry. And that requires practice. It requires vigilance. It requires a constant effort to examine our thoughts and to challenge our interpretations and to replace anger with acceptance, gratitude, mindfulness, compassion, patience. Okay, so it's hard to do, but it's worth doing. It's not easy, but it's simple, right? We just got to do these things. Well, yes, but also no, because what he's saying here is not merely that we have to do certain things. He's also saying that we have to become certain kinds of people. He says, people who are free from anger are people who care about others, who have compassion for others, who can see the futility of anger, who have overcome their self-centeredness. That's the kind of person who never gets angry. So becoming that kind of person, cultivating compassion, developing wisdom, becoming more self-aware, accepting the things we cannot change, focusing on the things we can control. These are the hallmarks of the Stoic life. And it's through practicing these things over and over again that we slowly become the kind of people who don't get angry.